Welcome to another episode of my podcast, which is all about helping you practice your listening skills, learn some new vocabulary, and also get some super useful grammar tips from me. Don't forget to download your free English grammar booklet from the video description. So in this episode, we'll have two speakers talking about how to stay motivated when learning something difficult. They will be using the verbs should, must, and have to quite a lot, and I'll be giving you some tips on using those verbs throughout the video as well. Okay, let's get started.
Hello and welcome. I'm Alex, and today we're talking about something many learners struggle with: how to stay motivated when you're learning something difficult. Maybe you're learning English, maybe you're learning a new skill, or maybe you're trying to start a new habit. Whatever it is, motivation can be tricky, so let's talk about it. And as always, I'm joined by Emma.
Hi everyone. I'm excited about this topic because motivation is something I definitely struggle with sometimes.
Honestly, I think we all do. Emma, let me start with a simple question. When you start learning something new, are you usually motivated?
At the beginning? Yes, very motivated. In fact, I'm too motivated. I make big plans. I say things like, I must study every day for 2 hours.
Oh yes, the famous 2-hour study plan.
Exactly.
So Alex said, I must study for 2 hours every day. Must is normally for talking about obligations or rules. For example, you must keep your seatbelt on when you're driving. So this is a rule, an obligation, something you must do. But you can also use must when you're talking about something that you're motivated to do yourself, a commitment you have made. So when the motivation comes from you, I must learn French. It's not a rule, it's not an obligation, but it's something I am motivated to do myself.
But after a week, reality arrives.
So what happens then?
Well, I realise that I don't have to study for 2 hours every day to make progress. Even 30 minutes can help.
Emma said, I don't have to study for 2 hours every day. I don't have to means it's not necessary. So let's compare don't have to and must not. When you must not do something, it means it's not allowed, it's prohibited. You must not smoke here. But when you say you don't have to, it just means it's not necessary. So you can do it, but it's not necessary. You can study for 2 hours, but it's not necessary. And I've got a separate video about must and have to, so make sure you check it out. I have linked it in the video description.
That's a really good point. People often think they must study for a long time to improve, but that isn't always true.
Yes. And if the goal is too big, you lose motivation quickly.
So maybe people should start with smaller goals.
People should start with smaller goals. So should is for saying that something is a good idea, something is sensible, it's recommended. So you should start with smaller goals. It's a good idea. It's my advice. You should do it.
I completely agree. If you're learning something difficult, you should break it into small steps.
For example, if someone is learning English, they shouldn't try to memorize 100 words in one day.
No, that sounds painful.
It really does.
Instead, they should learn 5 or 10 words and practice using them in sentences.
That feels much more possible.
They shouldn't memorize 100 words. So shouldn't is the opposite of should. So it means it's not a good idea. It is not a sensible thing to do. So my advice is don't do it. You shouldn't do it.
Exactly. When something feels possible, your brain says, okay, I can do this.
I like that. Your brain needs confidence.
Yes, and you shouldn't compare yourself too much with other people.
Oh, that's a big one.
It really is. For example, if your friend speaks English very well, you might think, I must reach that level quickly.
And then you feel frustrated.
Right. But learning takes time. You don't have to be perfect immediately.
I think that's an important message for learners. You don't have to speak perfect English to communicate.
Exactly. You just need to keep going.
So, Emma, what do you personally do when you start losing motivation?
First, I remind myself why I started. I think everyone should have a clear reason for learning something.
Like a personal goal.
Yes. For example, if you're learning English because you want to travel, you can imagine yourself speaking to people in another country.
That's a nice image.
It really helps. Also, people should make learning a bit fun.
Fun? Are you suggesting grammar can be fun?
Well, sometimes.
I'm not completely convinced.
No, really. For example, if you like films, you should watch films in English.
That's true.
And if you enjoy podcasts, you should listen to podcasts in English.
Like this one.
That's right. See? Very convenient.
Perfect strategy.
But seriously, people shouldn't only study from textbooks.
I agree. If learning feels boring, it's hard to stay motivated.
Yes. You must enjoy at least part of the process.
You must enjoy at least part of the process. So here, must is for talking about something that is necessary, something that is essential. It's not a rule, but it's just something that is essential.
That sounds like good advice for any skill.
Definitely.
I remember when I tried to learn the guitar.
Oh, really? How did that go?
Well, let's just say I realized I don't have to become a rock star.
That's probably a healthy realization.
At the beginning, I thought I must practice every single day.
And did you?
For about 4 days.
That's not bad.
Thank you. But then my fingers hurt and the guitar sounded terrible.
That's normal, though. When you start something new, it usually sounds terrible.
That's encouraging.
But you shouldn't give up too quickly.
Yes, that's true. I think many people stop learning because they expect fast results.
Exactly. But progress is often slow at the beginning.
So maybe learners should focus on small improvements.
Yes. For example, today you understand one new phrase. Tomorrow you understand two.
And after a few months, you realize you understand much more.
Exactly.
Another thing that helps motivation is routine.
Definitely. You should try to study at the same time every day.
Why does that help?
Because it becomes a habit. When something is a habit, you don't have to think about it so much.
That's true. It becomes automatic.
Yes, like brushing your teeth.
I hope everyone listening brushes their teeth.
I think they must.
So Emma says, I think they must. They must brush their teeth. Here, it's an obligation. So it's the most common way to use must to talk about obligations. So you must brush your teeth every day is something that is a rule or an obligation.
But the idea is similar. You don't ask yourself every day, should I brush my teeth today?
Well, I hope not.
Exactly. It's just part of your routine.
So if studying English becomes part of your routine, you don't have to depend on motivation every day.
That's right. Motivation is helpful, but habits are stronger.
That's a great point.
Also, learners should celebrate small successes.
What do you mean?
For example, if you understand a full podcast episode in English, you should feel proud.
Even if you didn't understand every word.
Exactly. You shouldn't expect perfection.
That's such a common problem. People think they must understand everything.
But that's not realistic.
Even native speakers sometimes don't understand every word.
Exactly.
So to summarize, small goals, enjoyable activities, good habits, and patience.
Yes. And maybe a little humor when things go wrong.
That always helps.
Now let's look at 3 useful phrases from today's conversation. The first phrase is to break something into small steps. This means dividing a big task into smaller, easier tasks. For example, learning a language is a big goal. But you can break it into small steps like learning 10 new words, listening to a short podcast, or practicing speaking for 5 minutes. The second phrase is to lose motivation. This means you stop feeling excited or interested in doing something. For example, many people start learning a language with lots of energy, but after a few weeks they lose motivation. The third phrase is to make something a habit. A habit is something you do regularly without thinking too much. For example, if you study English every evening, it can become a habit. When something is a habit, it's much easier to continue doing it.
Before we finish, here's a listening question for you. In the conversation, what instrument did I try to learn but stopped practicing? Check the video description. The answer will be there.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and make sure you download your free English grammar booklet from the video description as well. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.